Avadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagavan Ki Jai Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita Ki Jai Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining us online. As I mentioned, moving forward, we'll only be having classes online just to make sure we continue with the flow of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And as we enter into Vaikuntha, understanding this topic is quite difficult, very difficult. In fact, Gopakumar, as he narrates this pastime to the Brahmana, Mathura Brahmana, he tells him it's actually offensive to compare anything spiritual with something material. So he adds that as a disclaimer. Even though in one sense it's offensive, because whatever that's spiritual, our material mind has got no authority or potency to grasp the truth of it fully. But still, Gopakumar says that because we are in the material realm, we still somehow or other try to understand so that it may inspire us to take big steps towards our destination of Vaikuntha. So Gopakumar says Krishna will forgive us for that offense. So this topic is has got more details, definitely. I think I mentioned this before. Devamrita Maharaj, once in a class he gave us, he was telling that only those who read all of Srila Prabhupada's books 3 times, all of Srila Prabhupada's books, at least 3 times, you can then read and appreciate Brihad Bhagavatamrita fully. So some of the things we would read in this, we may not fully connect with it, we may not fully emote with it, so to speak. We may find it hard to completely relate to the narrations of Gopakumar. Still, there is a certain potency that comes even if we improperly hear, improperly glorify, improperly appreciate also. So eager for mercy, we still attempt in whatever little way we can to appreciate this. But just like in the description of Vedic cosmology also, in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami, he says, nobody knows the full extent of just the material creation within this one particular universe. And here we are going to talk about the extent of the glories of Vaikuntha, which is totally unlimited. So it's impossible. If we can't even understand the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, what hope do we have to fully understand and relish and appreciate spiritual worlds? Still, simply by following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, we try to develop some attraction. Normally, in our path of Krishna consciousness, we say there is Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha means you develop a relationship with your goal. In this case, it's the Supreme Lord Krishna. Abhideya means then you follow the process to reach Krishna, goal of life, and then Prayojana is Krishna himself. So even though normally we say Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana, wherein you first establish a relationship and then you follow the process and then you attain the goal, in reality, the way how it works is there is Sambandha and Prayojana and then Abhideya and then Prayojana. Which means initially when you set a certain goal in mind, you establish a relationship, definitely. But then with that establishment of relationship, you then fast forward and you think how nice it will be if I had attained that goal already. Prabhupada, once devotees have made nice laddus. Prabhupada calls them laglus, slight variant of laddus made with a lot of dry fruits and nuts. And when devotees bring it to Prabhupada, Prabhupada says that Krishna loves it so much that Krishna would fill them up on his pockets, on his bum bag before he heads out to the forest. And Prabhupada at that place, he says, I want to go to spiritual world simply to taste that Mahaprasad of laglus. That's all. Shrutikirti Prabhu records this in one of his memories. So here we can see Prabhupada is saying, even though we have not attained the perfection, Prabhupada is giving us a glimpse of the spiritual world with which we can develop that connection with Prayojana. Even though we haven't really quite started the process of Abhideya, or we have just started. So same way, Sambandha we have established, we want to go to Goloka Vrindavana. And next step becomes Abhideya, which is we have to follow the process. But even before following the process fully, just to develop a taste for the Prayojana, we do study, we do hear. So hearing the glories of spiritual world will inspire us more to practice the process much more deeply, in a much more determined way. We can march towards attaining the goal of life, which is to go back to Godhead, which is to be with Krishna, which is to attain Krishna Prema. So that's how it's explained. There is Sambandha, there is relationship, and then there is Prayojana, wherein you think, you meditate, and you crave by thinking about how blissful our life will be when we had actually attained Vaikuntha. So that will inspire us. So with that, we'll be able to follow the process, which is Abhideya properly, and then eventually we'll attain the goal of life. So in that mood, we can start reading these chapters of Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So in the last session, we saw how Gopakumar, he visited the different realms, especially he elevated himself to go all the way to the Brahman platform, where he saw Mahakala, and then later on he was blessed with the association of Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati. And we saw how Lord Ganesh gave him confidential knowledge, and then later on he met the Vishnu Dutas, or the messengers of the Supreme Lord, and then they give him instruction, and finally they instruct him to take shelter of Lord Shiva and go back to Brajabhumi. And in Brajabhumi, all his desires will get fulfilled. So Gopakumar, taking their instructions, he bows down to Mother Parvati and Lord Shiva, and when he opens his eyes, he finds himself in Brajabhumi, true to the words of the Vaikuntha-vasis. Gopakumar feels, even though he had been away from this material world for so many millenniums, we see in many instances how even in normal sci-fi movies you might have come across time dilation concept. So I remember watching one interspace movie when I was in flight called Interstellar. It's about man's quest to go to other planets, because based on the premise of that movie, the Earth becomes inhabitable, or about to be totally uninhabitable rather soon. So they go exploring 3 possible alternative destinations. So they go to one place, and where they calculate the time for every hour spent there, they would lose 7 years on planet Earth. So the hero of the movie goes there to that place. After a few hours, he comes back to his spacecraft, but by that time, his kid, who he has left as a 5-6-year-old small girl, she grows up and becomes like a research scientist by then. So this time dilation you will come across even in Srimad Bhagavatam. We were touching on the topic of Kakudmi, the father of Revati. He takes her to Brahmaloka to ask Lord Brahma himself about who the suitable match for her is. Brahma tells him, by the time you have arrived, you have spent only a few moments, but so many millennia have already passed. But don't worry, Lord Balaram, who is her eternal husband, is there. You can go down and give your daughter in charity to Lord Balaram himself. So you'll come across that also in Srimad Bhagavatam. So here in Gopakumar's case also, since he had left for this material world, or left the material world to go to Mahakalapura, he had spent so many hundreds of thousands of years away from planet Earth. So many things have changed. And when he comes, he observes everything has changed, but nothing has changed in Vrajabhumi. Second thing he observes is, he has by then seen so many different planetary systems also, the different kinds of opulences that each one of the planets are adorned with, the opulence of the people, everything he has seen. But when he comes to Vrindavan, he observes that the splendor, the brilliance of Vrindavan is still the topmost. There is nothing that comes anywhere closer to matching the beauty of Vrindavan. So he goes there and chants the holy name of Krishna. And one day he comes across his spiritual master. Remember, it was revealed in the previous chapter itself that his spiritual master, whose name is Jayanta, is none other than the Supreme Lord himself. So he goes, pays obeisances to him. So his spiritual master picks him up and he feels very happy to see the progress of Gopakumar. Always whenever we receive the instructions of the spiritual master, we should try our best to practice it fully. Now whether we succeed or we may not, doesn't matter. Giriraj Maharaj, he writes in one of his letters to Srila Prabhupada, after he gets initiated, he sends a letter to Prabhupada, Prabhupada replies back. And Giriraj Maharaj writes about or shares about that particular reply of Srila Prabhupada 40-45 years later in one of the classes. And he says, he had written to Srila Prabhupada that, first of all, to thank Srila Prabhupada for accepting him as his disciple and for blessing him to be engaged in some simple devotional services. And Prabhupada at that point had responded back, quoting this famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, Ananyas Chintayantamam Yejana Paripashate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshema Vahamyaham. To those who are constantly devoted to worshipping me with love, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So Maharaj says, at that point of time, he didn't fully understand the purport of the letter. But he shares his realization after 45 years. He was thinking, I've practiced it for 45 years. I still don't feel that I've made any progress. I haven't attained Krishna Prema. My chanting is still not pure. What hope do I have? Then Maharaj says, he was meditating on that, and then one day he remembered this letter and he opened this letter of Srila Prabhupada, which Prabhupada had actually sent him. And he says, when I read this particular line, when Krishna is actually promising, I preserve or protect what you have and I'll carry what you lack. Then Maharaj says, that's when this realization dawned upon him that as disciples, we can only try our best. We may not be perfect all the time, we may not be sincere all the time, but to the best of our ability, we should only try. We can only try. That's all we can do. But simply by doing it sincerely, most important is Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. Anya means something else. Ananya means not something else, only the object of worship. So Krishna is always a hard task master. As long as we keep on doing, even though imperfectly, doesn't matter. As long as we keep on doing, that point or that word Ananya is very important. Many times if some difficulty comes, there is a tendency, even among devotees who have practiced Krishna consciousness for some years, to give it up, losing hope. But here, specifically, Prabhupada says, Ananyas, we should never give up. Once we give up, that's when the fall down happens. Fall down doesn't happen when there is a slip, temporary fumbling down. That is okay. But one should pick oneself up and one should continue. Vishwamitra is a great example. He failed once miserably after 10,000 years. Can you believe it? 10,000 years gone. Again another 1,000 years again gone. Can you imagine the guilt that would have overcome him at that point of time? Still he picked himself up and he went on going. Ajamila kept on going. Shaubari Muni kept on going. So most important thing here is Ananya. We should never give up. Difficulties will come. Challenges will come. We will get knocked down. Pandavas, they were knocked down, but they didn't refuse to get up. Refusing to get up, Prabhupada says in one place, slipping, that's natural, to err is human. But when somebody slips and thinks this is it, everything is gone, Prabhupada says that's when fall down happens. Otherwise, we are always in the fall down position only, no problem. So from our side as disciples, we should only try. So Giriraj Maharaj says, simply if we try our best, then Krishna will protect whatever little bhakti we have. He will preserve whatever little progress we have made. And he will make up for whatever we lack. Which means even if we have practiced only or attained only 1% perfection, Krishna will still carry the remaining 99% which we lack. So Maharaj said when he read that letter, he had that realization by the mercy of Prabhupada, and he felt his confidence, his enthusiasm, feeling rejuvenated. So in Gopakumar's case, when his spiritual master sees him, he feels very happy to see his progress, and he imparts knowledge upon him about how he should be practicing bhakti from this point onwards, giving him the confidential secrets of the Navida Bhakti. And then Gopakumar takes those instructions very seriously and he practices, this time completely taking the shelter of Harinam Sankirtan. So he goes deep in his chanting, loudly chanting the holy names of the Lord, names of different personalities, different names depicting the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. And by simply chanting, over the period of time, he could actually see Krishna right in front of him performing his pastimes. On one instance, as he was wandering the different forests of Vrindavan at the foothills of Govardhan, he was loudly chanting the holy names of the Lord. He sees Krishna, his worshipable Lord, Lord of his heart, the Lord whose name is Gopal, whose 10-syllable mantra he had been chanting for, by this time, many millions of years. So when he sees him, he starts to cry out the name of the Lord, "Oh Gopal," and then he rushes towards him, ready to embrace him. And as he rushes towards him, he sees the Lord and then he faints. As soon as he faints, the same associates of the Supreme Lord who he had met in the Brahman in Mahakalapura, they come down with their spiritual airplane. In Vaikuntha, there are different types of mukti we come across in Srimad Bhagavatam: Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, Sarishti. Sarupya mukti is when the associates of the Lord, they all share similar bodily features as that of the Supreme Lord. Even though there are still some very distinguishing marks, distinguishing paraphernalia which only the Supreme Lord wears, still externally when you look, everyone looks very similar. Like Supreme Lord, he carries Lakshmi ji on his heart. So that's one distinguishing mark. Srivatsa, he has a tuft of golden hair, it's given on his chest. That's called Srivatsa. Only Supreme Lord alone carries. Supreme Lord alone carries Kaustuba jewel, the jewel that resembles like a calf. That jewel is worn only by the Supreme Lord, not by the other associates. So like this, there are some very special distinguishing marks that are given, which only the Supreme Lord sports or exhibits. Other associates, they resemble different bodily features of the Lord. So Sarupya Mukti, these Vaikuntha-vasis, they come, even though each one of them, they in one sense look like the Supreme Lord Vishnu, they carry a form, they show a form similar to that of Lord Vishnu. They are still individual jivas only. The pastime of Ajamila comes to mind. Initially, when Ajamila was about to be taken to the abode of Yamaraj by the Yamadutas, at that time 3 Yamadutas come to arrest him. Feeling very much scared, looking at their gory figures, Ajamila, out of fear, he calls out the name of his son, which is Narayana. He calls Narayana, 4-syllable name. In response to those 4 syllables, 4 Vishnu Dutas come. And because he had committed offenses, committed sins with Deha, Vak, Buddhi, through his body, through his mind, through his words, because he committed sins, 3 Yamadutas come. So for 4 syllables he chanted, 4 Vishnu Dutas come. 4 syllables of the Supreme Lord's name he chanted, 4 Vishnu Dutas come. For the 3 types of sins he did, 3 Yamadutas come. And in the argument that ensued, Vishnu Dutas, they defeat Yamadutas, driving them away. And then these Vishnu Dutas, they go back. And Ajamila, he feels that he had received a new life. He drops everything, leaves everyone, and he just goes to Haridwar, and there he performs the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And as he continues chanting, one day when he attains Krishna Prema, he sees the Vimana from Vaikuntha has arrived, and the same 4 Vishnu Dutas who had protected him earlier, they arrive. So our process is a very personal process. Vishnu could have sent any, he had unlimited servants who look like him. He could have sent any Vishnu Dutas, but here, Supreme Lord, he wants to give the bliss to his servants, that it's the same Jiva who they had saved at one point of time, and they would feel very blissful to see that same Jiva who they had given a second chance. He had progressed on the path of bhakti, so much so that now he is ready to become one among them in their entourage. Very personal. So here also similar instance happens. It's the same Vishnu Dutas who instruct Gopakumar in the Brahman. It's the same Vishnu Dutas, when he is fainted, they immediately rush there, pick him up, take him on board on the Vaikuntha plane, and they go. It's a very, normally you come across when the Jivas, when they go to the spiritual world in Vaikuntha plane, there are different descriptions given in Srimad Bhagavatam. For example, Dhruva Maharaj, when he goes, you see that description where he asks, when Dhruva Maharaj is about to board the Vaikuntha plane, death personified comes, he stamps on him and then he jumps onto the board, using him as the footboard basically. And then as he goes, we see this description about Dhruva Maharaj asking, my mother is my Vartama Pratakshaka Guru. And he thinks like this, where is my mother? When he turns, he sees his mother is also coming in one other plane. In fact, when he thinks that way, the Vishnu Dutas, they could fully understand what's going on in his mind, and they point at the other plane, where he could see his mother is also safely traveling to Vaikuntha in a different plane. So you will come across instances like this, where different devotees They board on the plane of Vaikuntha and they go. Another description we just saw, Ajamil going that way. But in this particular instance, Gopakumar is already fainted. He's still unconscious, so they pick him, put him on the Vaikuntha plane, and the Vaikuntha plane is mid-air now. And as it is going mid-air, Gopakumar slowly opens his eyes and then he sees, where am I? And he feels he's already in the air. And then slowly he opens his eyes, scratches his eyes, and then he sees he's already mid-air on his way to Vaikuntha. As soon as he realizes he's on Vaikuntha plane, he sees the Vishnu Dudas and he pays obeisances to them. And they embrace him and they pacify him. First of all, to be happy, and secondly, they try to convince him with arguments, because he is going to the spiritual world, he should let go of his material body as a cowherd and instead assume the same form as them, Sachidananda Vigraha form, as four-handed form. Gopakumar, because he has this strong connection with the Vrajabhumi, strong connection with his identity as a cowherd boy, he refuses. Even though they put forth a lot of convincing arguments to him that he should let go of that body and take a brand new Sachidananda Vigraha, he refuses. Then they award him to the boon with which he can still keep the same body, but the quality of this body will become Sachidananda. In other words, their body is also Sachidananda Vigraha, but in Chaturbhuja form, in Sarupya Mukti. On the other hand, Gopakumar also would have a Sachidananda form, but his body will look like a cowherd boy only. Prabhupada writes about this in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, about how pure devotees, when they leave this planet, they would retain their same form. And Prabhupada gives example. Pandavas, when they left, they had the same form. Draupadi, same form. Subhadra Maharani, same form, Prabhupada says. Which means, how people saw Arjuna here, this is exactly how he looks even in spiritual world, as he's sporting with Krishna. So Prabhupada says, pure devotees, they always return back to the spiritual world with the same form, because their whole body, there is nothing material left with that. Everything they have already engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord. So in Gopakumar's case also, Gopakumar has a very strong identity to his Swarupa, to his eternal position as a cowherd boy, which will be revealed later. But he says, no, I want to be as a cowherd boy. Then they didn't compel him and they allow him to keep his body. But now he has the potency of being a Vaikunthavasi, which means he can do whatever that any Vaikunthavasi could do, which Gopakumar will realize later. So the airplane goes, as the airplane goes higher and higher and higher, Gopakumar could see in each of the different planetary systems which he had traversed through in the past, all the residents, they were throwing archata, like parched rice, to seek his blessings or to proclaim his victory of having attained the supreme liberation. They throw flowers, and everyone from the lower planetary systems, he could see, they had their arms raised above their head and paying their respects like this. So he sees people in Chandraloka, Indraloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, and as he comes slowly up, he sees Brahmaloka, and then he goes, and when he crosses the Brahman, crosses Sadashiv Loka, there he sees Lord Shiva and Mother Parvati also. When he sees both of them, he offers his obeisances to them. And Lord Shiva speaks sweet words to him and blesses him on his journey to go to Vaikuntha. So as the Vaikuntha plane comes slowly higher and higher and higher, it eventually reaches the region of Vaikuntha, coming to the gateway entrance of Vaikuntha to the great city. So the plane lands on the region of Vaikuntha, but to actually enter into the city, the Vishnu Tudas tell Gopakumar, please wait here, we will go inside and we'll be back soon, seeking permission for your entry. But then as they go in, they know they are going to take some time, so they tell Gopakumar, as we go in the time that you wait here, you'd start to look around and count the glories, count the wonders of this place. And you will understand that nothing that you have ever experienced in your life would match any of the wonders that you are soon going to witness here. So they go in, get closest, and now Gopakumar is left alone. He is just waiting outside. And as he waits outside, suddenly he sees another airplane coming. And then from that airplane, Vishnu gets down with the 400 form. Immediately, Gopakumar pays obeisances. Oh, Supreme Lord, I'm here. I've been waiting for you for such a long time. I finally am here. Thank you for giving me shelter. As soon as he says this, that personality who comes, he says, wait, I'm not Vishnu. I'm also one of his servants. My form looks like him. I'm the servant of his servant. I'm not Vishnu. Vishnu is inside. And then he goes in. And then again another plane comes. With each plane comes, he sees the personality who gets off that plane being more opulent, more powerful, more beautiful than the one who had already entered. Again he would pay obeisances, rolling on the ground, offering obeisances to Vishnu. The person would decline to accept the obeisances, humbly referring themselves to be the servant of Vishnu, and they say, Vishnu is inside. We are simply servants of Vishnu. And as he waits outside, he could see many people coming there. Many are wearing the dress of a commander. They come after having finished their duties elsewhere where Vishnu had sent them for. And they come and they enter into the gate, enter into the city of Vaikuntha. Gopakumar still sits there and he witnesses. And as he sees, slowly he observes, not everyone is actually having the 400 form. There are some people who come as a very menial servant, cutting down on their opulences. Some people, they come with their family, with their wives, kids and everyone. They let them outside and they go in. Some Vaikuntha-vasis, they would come carrying all their opulences, but just before entering into the city, they would have all those opulences being sucked up into their body, and they will walk inside like beggars in a very, very humble mode. Beggars not in a very wearing unkempt clothes like that. Beggar means in the mood of a beggar. So even though they had so much opulences which they can possibly flaunt, they still carry the mood of a servant and they humbly walk in. So in this way he sees some people just going in with all their entourage. Some residents, they leave their family outside and them alone go into that city. In some places he sees, even though people come until that point with all the opulences, they have all the opulences being merged into their body and they just walk in without much pomp. So as he sees all of these wonderful things, with every single person comes, initially he would sit down. As soon as he sees a person comes, he would stand up, pay obeisance. And then the person would go, he would sit down again. Again another person would come, he would stand up. Again he would sit down. Again stand up. Again sit down. So this was going on for many, many times. And finally, the Vishnutudas who brought him there come out, ready to take him in. So as they pass through the first gate, they come to the second gate. And then again, just like how you may see in some movie wherein there is like multiple sentries and you need to have permission for each sentry. So as they come in, again they would make him wait, go seek the permission, come out. But then the commander of each one of the gate would come out exhibiting more and more opulence. So the commander who was in chief, who was in charge for the second gate, he was more opulent, more beautiful. He looked more powerful than the one in the first one. Like that, he goes to the next one. He goes to the next one. Like that, he goes past many, many gates. And as he goes past many, many gates, he gets bowled over by the exhibition of the different opulences. And as he moves from one gate into the other, the place becomes more and more brilliant, more and more glorious, more and more beautiful, more and more opulent. And he goes past each one of them in Srimad Bhagavatam also you'll find in 8th canto it's given how there are different gates to Vaikuntha and how each gate is actually guarded by different personalities. Jai Vijay, famous personalities we know. There is Nanda Sunanda, there is Bala Prabala, you will come across Kumuda Kumudaksha. So there are many like that. Different gates you go past. Each one is also guarding the different directions. There is one huge spiritual world chart which was published, I think, by devotees in Salem, if I'm not wrong, and that has references to Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Lot of references from Brihad Bhagavatamrita, from Laghu Bhagavatamrita, from Brahma Samhita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the most exhaustive depiction I have seen of Vaikuntha. There is one famous one which you know, there is a material universe at the bottom and then there is spiritual world. This is on a more, I would say like a bird's eye view. But this particular chart which I'm talking about has got details of only the spiritual world. But it goes into so much detail. You will come across there. Which gate is guarded by Nanda Sunanda, Bala Prabala, Sunanda, so on and so forth. It talks about the different avatars. It also takes references from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions to Sanatana Goswami about the different avatar tattva. So very beautiful piece of work. If you get a chance to have a look at it, you can see. And you can see the different personalities, different expansions and different gates, different details rather of the spiritual world. So he goes past each one. And finally, as he comes to the inner sanctum of Vaikuntha, which just extends to an unlimited extent, there he sees amidst all those huge, beautiful palaces, there's one palace which stood like a mountain, and in front of that particular palace, every other palace, he's talking palace, every palace looked like they are a servant, and every palace's gate was facing that one single huge palace in the middle. Needless to say, that centralmost palace, whose opulence can never be described in words, that belongs to Lord Vishnu. And every other small palace that were there in that, flanking them, in fact circling them, but you understand the central palace is like that, and every other palace all around, they have their gates or entrance facing this one, as if they are all worshipping. And palaces are also personalities. Actually, all the palaces were indeed worshipping. And then he was taken inside, and he goes into that huge palace, and as he walks in, the first sight of Vishnu he sees is, it is such a huge hall, assembly hall, and in the far end he sees a huge gigantic throne decorated with soft cushions, with spotless bolsters, with beautiful ornamentations decorating that throne. And Lord Vishnu is seated in the middle, flanked by two bolsters actually on the seat, and Vishnu was leaning resting his left elbow on one of the bolster, and is sitting there with a very enjoying mood. This is the first scene he sees. And then as he walks closer, as he's inching one step after the other, he slowly observes also what is happening nearby. First he sees Vishnu, beautifully decorated with golden ornaments. Vishnu, he has the source of all opulences, which means he can exhibit whatever he likes. But it's given here, the best of all his opulences, apart from the beautiful crown which he was wearing, bedecked with jewels, Vaidurya, rubies, and other costly gems and stones, with the beautiful clothes he was wearing, with the beautiful earrings that was adorning his ears, Makara Kundala. We see that. When Gopakumar actually walks in, he sees everything, whatever that he has heard about Lord Vishnu. But he says the most beautiful opulence in that whole scene was Vishnu's youthful beauty. Even though he is Adi Purusha, he is still Navayavanam cha. He is still the most youngest youthful person. So amidst all those, the exhibition of the different opulences that he sees, he says that opulence which stood out superior to every other opulence that's there was his youthful beauty. Vishnu is youthful. Generally, when we think about Krishna, it's easy for us to visualize Krishna as a cowherd boy, a young boy, youthful boy. Whenever it comes to understanding Vishnu or depicting Vishnu, or you think about Vishnu, we find it very, very hard. We think Vishnu means, okay, awe and reverence. With what comes with awe and reverence is that knowledge about awe and reverence clearly hides one fact, which I'll let you know now. When it comes to Krishna, to visualize Krishna as a 16-year-old boy is very easy, very relatable to all of us. We see somebody 16-year-old and we think, okay, you dress him like a cowherd boy, that's like Krishna. It's easy for us. But with awe and reverence, it's very hard to understand Vishnu as youthful beauty. Because generally, our understanding of awe and reverence means you think about any Vishnu deity you have come across in your life. Could be Balaji, could be Ranganath, could be anybody. You would think because of that mood of awe and reverence, with so much wealth, so much jewelry, so much worship and everything is being done, naturally our mind will conclude Vishnu must be slightly older. Correct? We can never think Vishnu same age as Krishna. We can never do that. And that's a classical example of how we don't see Krishna's beauty. We say Purnatara, Purnatama. Krishna's manifestation as Swayam Bhagavan to the fullest, most perfect form is Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. So in Swayam Bhagavan's Krishna's form, understanding about his youthful nature is relatively easy for us. But to marry somebody very young, like a 16-year-old person leading Vaikuntha, very difficult. We can't visualize. Because the wealth, there is a certain prejudice or there is a certain premise with which our mind goes. As soon as it thinks wealth, it will think of somebody elderly only. We can never marry these two. How can somebody be having so much wealth but still so youthful? Very difficult. Whereas in a simple village setting, forest setting, it's easy to relate to that. But here, Gopakumar says when he goes there and he sees this whole scene, he sees Vishnu, but Vishnu in his youthful beauty. Again, no deities in this material world, no depiction of Vishnu in this material world can do justice to appreciate these two facts simultaneously. Because wealth, awe and reverence, opulence means generally we think must be elder. We can't think of a person who's younger. So this is one thing we can appreciate. But Gopakumar, when he narrates, he says the biggest opulence that he saw in display there is Vishnu's youthful beauty. So one lesson we have to rub off, from our, as I said, prejudiced mind is Vishnu is a youth. When Prabhupada went to Tirupati temple, Prabhupada could see the youthful nature. And when Prabhupada comes out of Balaji temple, the Sri Vaishnavas who are worshipping Balaji in Balaji temple, understanding the exalted position of Srila Prabhupada, they take him to the sanctum sanctorum, to the Garbhagriha of Lord Balaji. And Prabhupada offers respects, and when he comes out, at that time one disciple asks Srila Prabhupada, is this Vishnu? Prabhupada says, no, this is Krishna in youthful form. That's why he is known as Balaji. Ji means like Swami Ji, this is Balaji, like Bala Gopal Ji, like that. And Prabhupada says, Balaji is just younger Krishna. But actually, even as the Purana goes, this is younger Krishna only. He comes there to marry Lakshmi Ji, because in Balaji pastime also, you will see Vyakula Devi, who is his mother, She is Mother Yashoda. So Mother Yashoda tells to Krishna that I have seen all your younger pastimes as Balagopal. I have seen your youthful pastimes also in Brajabhumi. But your pastime of marrying your queens, I didn't get to see. Then Krishna says, no problem. We'll come again in Kali Yuga and you will not only get to see, you yourself will arrange my marriage. So this is one Venkatesha Mahatmya, you will come across that. So then when Krishna comes as Balaji, at that time she performs. Mother Yashoda, which is Vyakula Devi, you see her temple also there if you go to Tirupati in South India. So she performs there. But even now if you go to Balaji, if I tell you, you look at the image of Balaji and you say this is youthful Krishna, you can't appreciate. Because the strength of the opulence will hide the youthful beauty. We simply can't go past that. Balaji, Prabhupada says, when you still would be confused, in fact bewildered. How can Prabhupada say Balaji as youthful Krishna? But Balaji is youthful Krishna. As his name says, he is Balaji, he is younger Krishna. But we can't, as I said, marry these two. Young, youthful beauty and the most opulent beauty. Very, very difficult for us. So this is why you will see in many instances, when devotees pray to Krishna, they say, my Lord, I want that form with which you blessed Mother Yashoda. Or I want that form with which you gave your darshan to Manikriva and Nalakuvera. So on and so forth. You will see specifically devotees demanding, no, my Lord, I want that form. Because devotees also don't want anything to hinder their vision when it comes to taking darshan, drinking the beauty of the Supreme Lord to their heart's satisfaction. How are we doing for time? 10 more minutes. So Gopakumar enters and there he sees Vishnu resting his left elbow on a bolster and sitting in an enjoying mood. And to Vishnu's left is Sri Devi, which is Lakshmi ji, and to his right is Dharani Devi, also known as Bhudevi. So Vishnu in Vaikuntha also, he has two wives. Sometimes we would think it's only in pastime here, Vishnu has two wives. Vishnu has two wives even in Vaikuntha. To his left is Sri Devi, and who is also known as Rama Devi. And to his right is Bhudevi, also known as Dharani Devi. What we see here in material world as Bhumi Devi is Bhudevi's expansion. So we see Mahalakshmi and then we have different Lakshmis coming from her. Likewise, this is Bhudevi, who is like the Mahalakshmi equivalent. And from her comes different expansion. One of the expansions is Bhumi Devi. When we say Mother Earth, this is one of her expansion. Likewise, you will come across for Lakshmi Devi also there are different normal definition or description of Lakshmi ji. We hear about Chanchala. Chanchala means one who doesn't stay in one place. There's one pastime connected to Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni is the one who told Lakshmi not to stay in one place. So Lakshmi ji, one of her form which is in material world, she provides all the different opulences to people. So in the churning of the milk ocean, you will see Lakshmi ji comes out as the daughter of the ocean god. That Lakshmi ji is not the original Lakshmi. The original Lakshmi is in Vaikuntha, who we see to the left of Vishnu. One of her expansions is this Lakshmi, who is usually worshipped by demigods or whoever who is interested to gain some material opulence. So if you see in some calendars that is produced in India, South India I have seen, I'm pretty sure you might have seen in North India also. You will see Lakshmi ji sitting on a lotus, big lotus, and she'll show Abhaya Mudra like this. But from her hand you would have seen gold coins coming out. So that form is one of her expansions. That is the form which came out of the churning of the milk ocean. And this is the form that is worshipable by all the demigods. Why? Because everyone wants material opulence. This particular form of Lakshmi ji is not so much of interest for Vaishnavas. Because Vaishnavas, they are always interested to go to spiritual world and to be engaged under the shelter of Lakshmi ji in the service of Lord Vishnu, not for their own sense gratification. Whereas these people who worship this form of Lakshmi is simply to gain, the aim of their worship is simply to gain some material opulences. So that's why even her relationship with all her bhaktas is also not long-standing. That's why she is known as Chanchala, which means today she'll be here, tomorrow she'll just move on somewhere else. When she sees whatever wealth she is providing is not used in the service of Krishna, she'll leave them and she'll go away. That's why she is known as Chanchala. So Chanchala is one expansion of the Lakshmi ji of the spiritual world. But the original Lakshmi is there and she is serving the Lord of her heart, which is Vaikuntha Pati, Narayana. So she makes with her own lotus hands pan with the betel leaf and she gives it to Vishnu. Vishnu takes it using his thumb and the forefinger like this, and then he puts it in his mouth, closing his eyes. If you want to imagine, have you seen that famous gulab jamun ad? One guy cuts gulab jamun, puts it in his mouth, closes his eyes, and then he chews. You can see the bliss in his face. Vishnu is taking the betel leaf like this, puts it in his mouth, closes his lotus lips, and then he starts to chew. And Gopakumar, when he sees his face, he could see that Vishnu, as he is chewing, he is enjoying the love and devotion of Lakshmi ji. And to his side, where all the different demigods, Ganadhyakshas, they are all the chief of the servants, like Nanda Sunanda, Kumudaksha, Jai Vijay, Bala Prabala, all of them. And likewise, he could also see Garuda in his human form. He could see Sudarshana in his human form. Even though Sudarshana was in human form, he was wearing a helmet, and in the helmet is the impression of Sudarshana, with which he could see this is Sudarshana. Even though he is not in chakra form now, he is in the form of a human, but he still is bearing the emblem of Sudarshana. So he could immediately recognize this is Sudarshana. Likewise, each of the different associates of the Supreme Lord, they were assuming different forms and they were standing there ready to worship, and they were all offering prayers of glorification. While Lakshmi ji is offering the pan to the betel leaf to Vishnu, Vishnu takes it, puts it in his mouth, and as he is enjoying, chewing it, Dharani Devi, who is his second wife, she is holding a vessel ready for getting any remnants from Lord Vishnu's lotus mouth. In other words, she is waiting for the Mahaprasad. This is what the supreme goddesses of fortune are doing in spiritual world. And when we get this service in material world by Prabhupada's mercy in temple, any service if we take up, any service that comes our way, we should keep this in mind. How Sri Devi and Dharani Devi, or Rama Devi and Bhu Devi, how they are worshipping Lord Narayana. Normally we may think, somebody to just hold the spittoon, for somebody to just spit. That's a very, very menial service. Yes, but if the person who is spitting happens to be Lord Narayan, what's the problem? So here, supreme goddesses of fortunes, they were worshipping Supreme Lord like this. So any service that we do in the temple, could be cleaning, could be doing some rubbish run, could be washing, could be anything menial. We should understand we are personally assisting goddesses of fortunes in the spiritual world. So this is the scene he sees. And as he chews, he could see his teeth resembling a row of pearls. The exact description that's given to describe his teeth is when Gopakumar sees, he is chewing. Most of the time his lips is closed, but momentarily he could see his teeth, which resembled like a pearl, a row of pearls, a row of kunda flowers. Lord Vishnu is also decorated with the famous Vaijayanti garland. Vaijayanti mala is made of 5 different flowers. One is kunda, kund. Kund is like white jasmine, buds of white jasmine. It's whitish in color, very fragrant flowers. So that's kund. And Lord Vishnu's teeth resembled like a row of kund. Sometimes for flower dress you will see devotees making different beautiful patterns with the flowers. Sometimes with even buds of jasmine they would make. How will they resemble? This is how when Gopakumar sees Vishnu, Vishnu's teeth resembled. So one is kunda, second is mandara. Mandara is a flower which is orange in color. So that's the second flower that makes it to the Vaijayanti garland. Then you have parijata, the famous flower from the Swargaloka which never fades. Then kamala, lotus also known as padma, and then you have tulsi manjaris also. So these 5 flowers, kunda, you have mandara, parijata, kamala and tulsi. So each one of these, they are they are arranged in Vaijayanti garland in a certain pattern to make that offering more beautiful. So in this way, when Gopakumar sees this scene, this is what he could actually notice. And as he's seeing all these different associates of the Supreme Lord offering words of praises, the chief entertainer amongst all of them was Narada Muni himself. And Narada Muni, using his veena, he performed clever entertainment. So clever, using his words with his music, that at times Vishnu, along with the goddesses of fortune, would laugh out loud, feeling so happy, so pleased with Narada Muni's performance. So this is the scene how Gopakumar explains in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Now before he entered into the scene, the associates of Vishnu who had actually brought him there, they already teach him about the etiquette of behaving in Vaikuntha, how he is supposed to pray, how he is supposed to offer obeisances, how he is supposed to behave, so on and so forth. Because the place of awe and reverence means everything goes based on a certain rule. Just like how we have in Pancharatrik Vidhi. You do Achaman here, Suchi, Muchi, offer these many rounds when you actually do Arati, or offer these many items at this particular time, Bhoga. So there are very strict rules and regulations. So how we see, we actually offer here in material world. This is actually not material world, this is spiritual world. But in temple, which is an embassy, spiritual embassy in material world, same way, when you go to spiritual world, we will be offering the same series of articles, but which are in a much more opulent manifestation. So these rules, Gopakumar was already educated. But when he goes there, when he sees Vishnu, he loses himself. He raises his arms and he cries out loud, "Oh my dear Gopala, I've seen you finally." Shouting this way, he starts running towards Vishnu. But as he is running towards Vishnu, ready to embrace him, Vishnu Tudas are behind you, or behind him. They catch him from the back and they pull him back. And then when they catch and pull him back, he looks at Vishnu, and in that ecstasy, he faints. We'll stop there and continue from that point next week. Any questions before we finish? Manjula Mataji.
a spiritual chart that we can look at about Vaikuntha? Where can we find that, please?
It was published by devotees in ISKCON Salem. I will see if I can find a soft copy. If not, at least I'll send you the link from where you can purchase. It's a huge one. Like almost, I'm sitting in a room. It's almost like a size of the door of this room. It's a big one. But that's the one where I have seen, I saw that actually that was published, I think in 2016. When I visited Vrindavana, I saw at the time they had a special booth where they were explaining all of that. But I'll see if I can find the link for that and I'll post it in the group. You can place the order and you can get it. If there is soft copy, I will find out. I haven't actually come across. I have one in my room. I have used that